Hello, and welcome back to another award winning edition of Unleashing the Baseball Mindset. And today we have another guest. I'm very excited to get to talk to him. We have Andy Pendleton on today. So, Andy, why don't you give us a little background? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me on. My name's Andy Pendleton. I grew up in the Lake Highlands area of Dallas, went to Lake Highlands High School, met my bride in high school, actually. I was a senior, she was a junior. Made our way to Richardson nowadays, close enough that we've both got babysitters, but far enough away that you got to call us before you show up with the grandparents. So we have three amazing kids. Palmer's 9, Beckett is almost 5, and Walker's almost 3. So I started off, let's go back to freshman year of high school. I started off as the fourth string catcher and the equipment manager. I'll put it that way. And I had had a lot of success at different levels leading up to that. Like U, 12U. I had some success, but 12U is kind of where I made a realization that these kids are really good. I haven't hit a growth spurt. My dad had a lot to I wasn't getting a whole lot of playing time, had a lot of tough conversations throughout that, not just with my parents, but with coaches as well, that I was lucky to have some transparency with that. And it was all but set that I could barely slide to the team. By my sophomore year of high school, I had maybe moved up one slot in the catcher, and I still hadn't played about 3 games in. And my parents, I was venting to my parents, and they were, well, go talk to the coaches. Like, what do you want us to do? And so one night after a game, I went and talked to the JV coach and the varsity coach. And I was like, Coach, I want to play. And what do I need to do to get on the field? And I remember it vividly. The JV coach spoke up and he was like, I need pitchers this weekend for a tournament. And I pitched that weekend and I never picked up a bat again after that moment.
No.
It became very clear that it was my hitting that was keeping me off the field. And I had a pretty good arm. So flash forward junior year, I'm still JV fighting for playing time. I'm getting starts here and there, but I'm also playing summer league and fall league. And honestly, I didn't hit my growth spurt until 16, 17 years old, and I was young for my grade. So my senior year, I got in some trouble in high school that caused some running. I know we started off the podcast that running in the morning. What was the quote? Running in the morning makes your day easier, basically.
Yeah, because it could only get better from there or something like that.
That you were talking about right before.
Yeah.
Yeah, your day can only get better from there. So I got in some trouble with running as a punishment. I lost that baby as I was growing, and senior year I was throwing pretty hard. Like I topped out at 88, and for a guy, I'm sitting down, not face to face with you, but for a guy that maybe is 5'9", but with cleats on, I was every bit of 5'10". I was getting a little torque behind it. Um, the data and the research and the development's a lot different nowadays, but uh, I really thought my only option to play or to go to college in a lot of ways was through baseball. So I was in the fall of my senior year, I was throwing 4 innings for my summer ball team, or sorry, for the varsity get together team. You go and play other high schools. I'd max out at 4 innings for that team, and then I'd go play for my select team on Sundays and pitch till the wheels fell off. And every once in a while for my Sunday starts, I would get a college that says, hey, can you come to a showcase here and there? And I was going to as many of those as I could and doing quite a bit of physical therapy along the way. Like I wasn't I wasn't the most aware of getting stronger at the same time. I was putting a lot of pressure on my arm throughout that time and not doing a whole lot of running, not doing a whole lot of lifting, not doing a whole lot of maintenance. But eventually the right people came in contact and ended up playing junior college at Ranger Junior College for 3 semesters. I have these tendencies to go off course and then something happens and I get back on course. And I was having a lot of fun my sophomore year of college at JUCO. A lot of the same guys are back. We're going to be crushing it. And I thought I had my spot guaranteed. I thought I put as a freshman, I thought I put some skins on the wall. And when it came time to post a roster, I wasn't on it.
Mm.
And I was like, what in the world? So I went and talked to coach and he said, I think your priorities are out of line. Said, well, coach, and he structured it in a way like that he wanted me to come back as a junior, more mature, bigger, and take us to a national championship. And I'm still dating my girlfriend at the time from high school, and I see a different vision that I'm there to finish school and get my life in order. I did not ever see myself getting drafted, but I saw this as my only path through college. And so I started shopping around schools. I wanted to stay in conference and really get Ranger back for cutting me. And I came across East Central University from another teammate of mine that had gotten cut. Me and 2 teammates ended up going there, and I finished my college career there. Had a lot of good times, but my senior year, once again, I felt like I got complacent and I had my role, felt like I was working hard enough. And I had a really big one. Once you hang them up, you find a way back into it somehow if you love it enough. And I started coaching a group of boys when they were 10U. And now they are all in college. A lot of them went and played college. One of them got drafted in this past draft. It's crazy. Like, I met them when they were 10 years old, and now they're driving to come say what's up to me. We'll still go throw the baseball every once in a while. And then my daughter came when they were at 13U, right when it was about to get exciting, to the high school size fields. One of my big things was we were practicing on high school fields. Like, you were going to see live pitching during practices. So my boys could always hit it. They were always on a little bit of the smaller side compared to some 10U, 11U, 12U boys. But sure enough, when it came time to make rosters, like they were making varsity squads as young pups. And it was really cool to see.
Let me jump in, golly. I didn't want to cut you off, Andy, but I'm writing as you're talking because I don't know what direction, Dylan, you want to go with this. I think we may have lost Kyle temporarily, but I don't know. You just threw out so many topics to me.
Yeah, where do you want to start?
Whatever direction y'all want to go. And that last thing you said too, I haven't written that down, but I want to write that down too about your boys or I think it was your boys you're talking about making I know they're young, you said that, but on the high school side, which is where this leads to, right? This youth baseball is sort of what we center around here, but that leads to high school. So let me mention a few things that I was picking up on as you were talking, Andy, whatever direction y'all want to go, but like these are great things. One was the you mentioned not growing, physically not hitting a growth spurt, maybe as early as some of the other kids when you were 12. That's a big thing that I've experienced in the team that I coached with. That's a whole topic in itself. As we talk about youth kids, is how we evaluate them, how we train them in baseball based on their size, but so none of them have ever have hit a growth spurt at 9 or whatever it is. So anyway, that's one topic if y'all want to go down. You mentioned, I think it was yourself, just continuing and maybe for your high school team and having to try and it was later before you kind of maybe you were the 4th string catcher, I think you said, right? But you kept at it, you didn't quit. I just this week was telling Dylan earlier, my son just finished 3 days of high school tryouts. I'm going through tryouts. I'm not going through it. A lot of the boys that I've coached over the years that are now in high school, I'm following along with them in their high school tryouts. Matches my son made his team. Some of the boys, that aren't making their team, I guess, trying to be encouraging. I think that's a good lesson. Is I was telling one last night that this is not the end of it. You're 14, 15. Don't think. I know it hurts right now, but
And
don't think this is not
and
the end of your baseball career.
let's not be afraid to say that in my situation at Lake Highlands, like it almost felt like the starting lineup was made when we were 7, 8 years old because coach had been there 40, 50 years. As we get older, we get set in our ways. And I've had that kid penciled in since he was 8 years old. It can be a situation where it's a mind blowing thing. But if that team's winning 20, 25 games a season and only losing less than double digits, like you've got to trust that. Like you have to trust that
Sure.
the right decisions are being made for you and for the team.
Well, that I agree with that. These high school coaches are getting paid to do that job. They're professionals. I trust they know what they're doing. But it's also, I mean, it kind of parlays a little bit into if we're talking about freshmen trying out for a high school team.
Yeah.
In my son's case, he's very young. He's 14. He's in freshman. Some of the kids in his class are 16. But he's having to go out there, and he's tall, but he hasn't filled out physically, with strength like some of these kids that are a year and a half, 2 years older than him. So it kind of ties into that point you made about not hitting a growth spurt as early, I guess, as or at the same time as some of the other kids, but you still have to go compete. And this was one thought I had coming into this, and those things you mentioned play into it. Is it all culminates from a youth baseball standpoint, it should anyway culminate into a high school conversation, right?
Yeah.
I've said on here before, as a youth coach, I was never trying to create college ball players or certainly anything beyond that. That's not up to me as a youth coach. I'm trying to prepare you to go make your high school team. What you do beyond that is not up to me as your 10U coach. It's up to your high school coach, and it's up to you. And it's been on display for me this week as I'm watching not just my son, but these other boys that I coached, and their level of preparedness for that high school tryout, and I just think we talk about, like I said, it's this show is focused on youth, but all those things you talked about with again, from a youth coach standpoint, is wrapping all that up to culminate in a high school tryout. It's just fresh on my mind right now. So
Yeah, that's
Absolutely.
true.
And those are
Hey,
tough. I
Andrew,
can't imagine explaining to my child too. Yeah. What's up, Dylan?
hey, were you pigeonholed
Yeah.
into the catcher position, or was that on your own doing?
I really liked it. I was a chubbier kid as I was growing up. Like
Yeah, you look
I
super chubby.
remember vividly now.
right,
What's
yeah,
that?
I was thinking you had to be.
Yeah, I was a chubby kid growing up, like, and it took a long time for that baby fat to fall off, and then I'd add it back on and then lose it. It's
Yeah.
one of
Mine hasn't
those.
fallen off yet.
There's still time.
So
When I grow up.
I loved it. I felt like I was involved with every play. Pudge was my favorite player growing up. Like
Yeah.
I wanted to be like Pudge, and yeah, it was one of those, but I'd always pitched. Like
Oh, okay, so
there
you
were
did both. You did
games,
both.
yeah, there were games in
Okay.
Little League Baseball, Little League of Dallas, where I'd pitch for 5 innings and then put the gear on and then go behind the plate for a couple of innings too.
So that's a good segue right there. I didn't have this on my list, but what's interesting to me is you have all this animosity on Facebook and coaches chats and all this stuff about kids that pitch and catch, right? And it's so bad for their arm. It's burning them out and blah, blah, blah. Where, some of the best players that I knew and I played with caught and pitched. My son Maxwell, he catches and pitches and plays short and plays outfield. To me, it all boils down to the conditioning, to the movement patterns, to, okay, are they able to withstand that? Have they adapted to be able to withstand, which these kids are not these days? And that's where, like, one of my main focuses in my teams for the past 3 years, I coached now. So the past 3 years have been off-season programming to where they are able to do that.
Well, also, Dylan, I'll add, and I agree with you. And we had a kid that was our catcher. We also needed him as a pitcher on a weekend because we just didn't have the numbers of pitchers that we needed. But I think you have to manage their arm a little bit different than you do or a lot different than you do the other pitchers that are not also catching. Catching goes against your pitch count. I mean, it's not exactly the same, but that is use of that arm. The way we did it, and I say we, I mean, Chad was our pitching coach, obviously, among other things. Our catcher that we also needed to pitch, it was a very good pitch. We let him pitch first game 1 on Saturday. He would pitch, because we were, number one, we were never going to let him pitch and catch in the same day, or certainly not consecutive games. But we weren't going to let him pitch after he had caught 2 games, 3 games, because his arm's already a little bit taxed at that
And
point.
I think that is the biggest difference between when I was growing up and what baseball has turned into now.
Yes.
Because this is 1995, 1996, 1997, the mid 90s, where the select baseball scene was BBI out at Dallas Christian Academy off of 635. That was the select baseball side. So we weren't playing 12 tournaments in a summer. We weren't playing 100 games in a year.
Right.
It was baseball season. We were playing baseball during that time. And I'd love to hear the doctor's perspective of specializing in that sport so young, so that you can't do these things that are hard on the body, but I don't see how you could do it for 30 games in a summer or 40 games in a summer as well.
So look, I agree with you from the pure medical standpoint. Go ahead, Dylan. You can talk more on that.
Yeah, I mean, it's the amount of games we play. That's what it all boils down to. It's the amount of games that we play. The specialization, I'll let Kyle talk about it. Me and him talk about it almost every episode. But the specialization thing, like you had said in one of your text messages, Andy, I totally agree with it. And forcing your kids, if they're going to play sports, to play other sports. Totally agree with that. But I will say this is, I don't agree that a kid cannot catch on the same day that he pitches. What it is, it's not their arm, it's their hips, right? It's their hips that are wearing down. So if we train kids properly, and like we've talked about 1,000 times, Chris, back in the day, we were trained properly on our own through what we did outside, playing ball, all that stuff, right? Nowadays, it needs to be a training in a facility or out on a field where they're training themselves to adapt to that. Now, I'm not saying that we should do that. I'm not saying we should have Maxwell pitch a full game and then come back and catch a full game and then the next day pitch again. I'm not saying we should do that, but the ability to do it was definitely there back in the day, but it's only because of the things that we did outside of baseball, right? And so when it comes to all these movement patterns that we're doing, we were able to do that. Kids these days, number one, are playing way, way, way too many damn games. And number two, they're just not built to do that anymore because they're not playing the backyard baseball and backyard basketball and the pickup football and all that stuff, right? I was just going to say we have to work with what we have. As we were determined, we're not going to change the lifestyle, right? Or society, like Mike said. We can't change that, right? So we got to adapt and do what we can do to build stronger and more athletic players. And that's it.
Yeah, that's right. And I agree with all that. But an added comment that I have to this specialization thing, not talking about a physical thing at all here, but I used to tell my kids this. I had a parent, maybe I've told this story. I had a parent at 12U come up to me and say, "Hey, y'all let my kids play in too many different positions." I said, "What are you talking about?" And he said, "Well, they're getting to the age where they need to figure out what position they play." I said, "You're right at 12." At 12. And I said, "What are you talking about?" He says, "Well, he needs to play third base. That's what he's going to play in high school." I said, "Really?" Well, what if he goes out, he's at a small school, right, where freshmen will play varsity. I said, "So what if he shows up to practice first day and Coach says, "What do you play, son?" Well, I play third base. I said, and there's a senior there, that's already signed with a college. In this case, that was true. I knew who the senior, third base was. He wasn't going to take that spot. There's a junior, right? I said, and the coach says, "Well, we don't need you at third base. What else do you play?" Well, that's all I play, coach.
Exactly.
I mean, that's not the answer that you need to be giving these high school coaches. And so, I just see too much emphasis. I think it's more the parents, less the coaches on the youth level of specializing these kids in a position. I want my kid playing every position on that field, because the correct answer to a high school coach is wherever you need me, that's where I want to play. Wherever I can get on the field, I'll play there, So just another thing to be against the specialization at the young level.
Yeah.
I started training, like we had a good core group of boys from 10U, 11U, 12U, 13U. And as I was learning more about coaching and a lot of the psychology of it and leadership and so on and so forth, I would do these exit interviews with them. And at the beginning of the year, I would do an entrance interview with them. And it was 10 kids. Like we see each other all the time. You can find 5 minutes per kid to go through a set of questions. Like, hey, if you were to pick your favorite position on the field, what is your favorite position? If you were to pick the position that you feel like you're best at, what position do you feel like you're best at? And if you had your choice of your life would not end up any different if you never played this position again, what would it be? And really the last one is a trick question, and only one kid at 11 years old, I remember him saying it, and it still makes my hair stand up on my neck. He goes, "The bench." And I was like, dude, you are going places. He ended up being the starting quarterback for, I can't remember which Frisco school. He's an amazing kid, he came from a great family. And part of coaching is also the families of the kids you're coaching too, and all going in the same right direction. Like when I was coaching in the tournament ball, this is not what I grew up in. And it had changed a lot in those 15, 20 years since I'd been there. And the stuff, the costs, I'm getting paid. And it sounded awesome. Like, you're going to pay me $500 a month. I would do this for free, but okay. Then I started doing the hourly wage, and I was like, man, I was hopefully giving these kids a lot of bang for their buck at the very least,
Oh,
or
yeah.
their parents, but a close group of parents that get along with each other. And like Coach Dillon, our introductory point of Dusty, like I Coach Coy, 10U, 11U, 12U, and he was always had the most beautiful swing you'd ever see. And I was like, that swing's going to take you places. Like, keep going after that swing. And yeah, he played every position as a kid. He was probably one of the best pitchers on the team. I was never worried about that kid. Like, he's a real good kid.
Hey,
Oh,
Dylan.
Yeah.
Look, let's just pause just a second, just to kind of tell the viewers here that Kyle is part of this show. I think he's got some video issues, so we can't see him, but he can see us. He can hear us. I think we can hear him too. So, Kyle, jump in. Even though we can't see you, if we can hear you, you feel free to jump in here.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much for pointing that out.
Oh, yeah. So we can hear you. Okay, cool. Yeah, Kyle, talk about the
Yeah.
specialization part a little bit.
Unfortunately, I think I might have missed that part.
We were just talking about the issues and problems with specializing at such a young age.
Just overuse.
Yeah, overuse patterns, all that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, you're probably covered it. And again, as I was trying to get my iPad here working, sometimes I couldn't hear what y'all were saying, even though it was being recorded. Yeah, I think overuse in general, one of the number one injuries across the board for all levels of all ages and different people. It's people that sit at a desk and people that play sports are overuse. Overuse. It is really just that, right? It's these repetitive patterns, and the patterns aren't bad. The problem is the body doesn't have the time to recover.
And we really see it, the most prominent in tendons and ligaments because they're non-vascular, so they're slower to heal. And that's kind of the thing where having some sports variety or just for variety in daily activities, it displaces where the stress is placed, right? And then so that way those tissues and stuff they do have time to recover. And I think at a younger age, kids are incredibly resilient. Their bodies are adapting and growing so quickly where they can do more. They can practice harder. They can throw, 600 balls in practice or whatever. But then there needs to be, a little bit of a break to give the
Proper
tissue healing.
recovery for that.
And really, the last
Yeah.
part of that too, not to get off on a tangent, but thinking about nutrition. Nutrition is how the tendons and ligaments and muscles and everything repair. And so, if you've got kids, and my kid, whenever we leave the game and we stop at Quick Trip for hot dogs, we could probably do something better to make sure he's getting the things he needs for his little body to really optimize that recovery.
Yeah. What are your
Yeah.
thoughts
I
on?
mean, I can remember plenty of on the way home with dad or mom needing to eat something and stopping at a fast food joint after a really hard workout. And it's like, what was the point of now looking
Yeah.
back? It was like, what was the point of the workout again? Like, you can get
Yeah.
pretty fast food without getting fast food, I guess is the
But
best way to put that.
But it was
Yeah.
still different back then, right? Because we wouldn't, yeah, we ate pretty crappy. Like I remember the majority of my diet was hamburger helper. I was overweight as well. But we wouldn't go home and then just jump on the video games for hours and hours and hours. So it was different because we got much more movement variety just by living our lives. And kids these days don't seem to get as much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally agree with that.
What's your thoughts, Kyle, on
I would
if you are gonna, let's say you're gonna specialize your kid in baseball, at 9U, all right? And what's your thoughts on making sure they're playing every position on the field versus just one or two? What would be the difference there between that and then playing other sports? Obviously, I know the answer, but I want to hear you say it.
Is it obvious that you know the answer?
I mean, it should be. It should, I mean,
What I would do, I mean, let's say if you want a kid and Chad Durbin, he didn't say this, but his son played soccer and his son really liked soccer. But I think of that to where let's say the kid really wants to play baseball and they want to excel in baseball, and maybe as a parent that's the sport you want them to do as well. Well, get them in a sport where it's not as much upper body, like soccer. In the way soccer is going to help develop footwork for any athlete, it's going to help. It's going to help with football. It's going to help with baseball. It's going to help with dancing if they decide to go that route. And so that would
Basketball.
really be the big transition. I wouldn't, or I would want to discourage a baseball player playing tennis in the other seasons because it's so upper body dominant. That's not really going to be the movement variety that we're looking for. So that would kind of be the difference between playing all the different positions versus a completely different sport.
Good. That's
that's
good.
what I was gonna say,
Yeah. I
Kyle.
agree with, the soccer thing. I mean, I am close to Chad and his son also. And I was so excited. I'll say that like soccer as a sport, I think I can't stand it. It's not a sport that I like at all. But its
Nope.
usefulness, I mean, I'm sorry, I don't like soccer.
It
Yeah.
still translates to
But
soccer
but
players.
its usefulness, to these
Soccer's getting
kids.
specialized too at a super young sport,
Oh
like
yeah. Oh
as
yeah.
well. So soccer parents need to hear this as well.
Yeah, I mean, I had a front row seat to Chad's son since you brought him up, Kyle. The first 4 years of youth baseball, and then he decides to start playing soccer too. The improve, and I don't mean improvements, but like just the benefit that he got by playing soccer in the off season of baseball. I mean, it was incredible to watch, and I was so excited for
I mean,
him.
from
He's such a good
conditioning to
kid.
footwork to and football is the same way. Like, don't get yourself hurt. Flag football as long as you can, I guess, if
Yeah.
the kid
Yeah.
has a real desire to get out there.
Yeah.
My son Maxwell, he's gonna start. He's played a little bit of football in the past, but he's gonna start tackle football his 7th grade year. And although, like, I don't want to see him get hurt. Obviously, knowing what I know, it's the best thing for him. That's the best thing for him. I need him, especially like
It'll be fine.
if you have kids that aren't aggressive, aren't tough enough, don't know how to compete. and they just can't figure it out on the baseball field. You throw them on a football field, things are going to change, and that's what I love about it is like, I definitely, like I said, I don't want them to get hurt. I mean, I see kids on my teams get hurt all the time in football, the ones that play football, but at the same time, I think I've built Max to a specimen that can withstand the hits and going through what he's going to go through in baseball, because we do a lot of cross training. I mean, in football, whatever. But yeah, I'm excited about it for him because I think it's going to make him a better baseball player. And I did want to say something about what Andy was getting to is soccer. I don't know if it's like that over there in Baton Rouge, because I know it definitely wasn't when we were kids, Chris, but soccer here is crazy, man. They specialize as a probably earlier age than baseball. And I mean, they go year round. I lost a kid a couple years ago to Brock's team to soccer because they play year round. They couldn't make most of our tournaments. And like Andy was saying, it's probably
Yeah.
something soccer parents should hear too. I'm sure we don't have many soccer parents that listen to this, but man,
Totally agree with that. I mean, yeah, I agree. I mean, the things that we're saying about this cross training and overuse, I mean, it applies to any sport. I know
yeah,
we're
yeah,
talking about baseball, but
yeah,
absolutely what Andy's saying. If you're a soccer player and that's your sport, go play baseball.
yeah,
Not to be a baseball player, but to
You
help yourself in soccer. My high school baseball coach. I played football and basketball as a freshman, but then I decided, okay, I'm rolling with baseball. I'm going to quit those other two, and I did. And my high school baseball coach said, "That's great, no problem, but you're not going home in the off season." He said, "You have to pick one: cross country or swimming, one of the two. You have to do one of them. You're not going to compete in either sport, but you're going to go to the practice. You're going to do the workouts with those teams." So
yeah.
I picked swimming. I don't know why.
Oh, wow.
So I was at a daddy-daughter camp out. We do one each semester with all the dads and just as a group, kind of a old school Indian guides situation but I heard one of the dads, and it was one of the dads that has a really talented daughter, and he wasn't boastful or anything, but he has older kids, and it was like, in the soccer scene, if you want to make it, like 7U is kind of when you need to be starting to get looks of getting in the right systems and this and that. And I'm like,
Yeah.
7?
It's crazy. It's crazy.
Goodness.
So look, I mean that to me that kind of segues into what I mentioned earlier, and again, if y'all don't want to go down in this direction, we don't have to. But it was a point that Andy made when he was giving us his bio, and it just plays into this in that 7U comment for soccer plays into it also. This thing that these kids are not hitting growth spurts right at the same time, and I wonder a lot as a youth baseball coach, how many, what are we doing for these kids, good or bad, that are developing later than some of the other ones? If we've talked so much, Dylan, about this chasing wins and this premium of this tournament travel select ball, whatever you want to call it, and tryouts every year, and cutting the kids that aren't good anymore and replacing them with kids that are better. And I just wonder, I got an example of this to the contrary. The team that Chad and I coached, other than some organic natural turnover, which was very minimal over a 6 or 7 year period, we didn't do that. We never had a tryout. We never said, well, sorry, you don't make the team this year. Chad, thank God for him, because, being this baseball guy more than the rest of us, he always said year to year, I mean, admittedly, I might would have tried to initiate some of those conversations with him. What about little Johnny? I mean, and he would always say, they're going to be fine. They're going to be fine. There was no interest in build this all-star team for 10U, and we wanted to develop the kids that we had, because at 9U, at 10U, just because we lost to this team of kids that are bigger and stronger, it didn't matter to us, because we were trying to build high school kids. And I'm gonna tell you, my own son as the example, if I wasn't one of the coaches, I hope my son's not watching this, because I'm gonna be real honest here. If I wasn't one of the coaches, maybe he doesn't make that team if it's a traditional,
Organic
year
tryout.
to year team that, okay, you're not good enough. We found somebody better than you, so good luck to you. I could say that about a lot of the kids on our team. I'm just use my son as the example. And I would talk to Chad personally about my own son, and he said, "Don't worry about it. He's going to be fine. He's going to be fine. He knows the game." And just this week, having watched 3 days of high school tryouts, he's absolutely fine. And so I just want to caution coaches out there to don't discard some of these kids at 9 years old or 10 years old because they're not the biggest or strongest, because they're 9, they're 10, they haven't grown yet. And, maybe even at 12 or 13, where some of these kids are hitting their growth spurts. I've got another example on a kid on my team who is going to be a dynamite high school player. He probably comes up to my weight. He has not hit his growth spurt yet. He's 13, 14 years old. He's still little bitty. I know his dad. They're big. He's going to grow. And that's a kid. He's pretty advanced in the game mentally and skill set wise, but he's just little. But I don't care. I never care. We never cared because he's going to grow. I'm not getting rid of this kid at 11 years old because he hasn't grown yet. Who cares? It doesn't matter.
Yeah,
We're worried
yeah.
about high school. He'll have hit it by then. So this idea of, the growth spurt, like you mentioned, Andy, and what that how that's treated by these youth coaches. And I just fear that some of these kids are getting lost because they haven't grown yet, because there's other kids that are bigger and stronger than them. When those kids could those smaller kids could absolutely develop into something special.
And
for high
you're
school.
finding the good examples too, but like I can remember a couple of different stories where it was a family situation where I am questioning my decisions as a coach and it is harming this team winning, my team winning, and things like that. That I loved the kid and I would have loved to continue to coach the kid, but it was a situation where the kid is going to forgive you as long as you're communicating and making that very apparent that it I'm making the best decisions for this team right now, and you're more than welcome to be along for the ride, but it's going to take more. And also, like, talking to this parent 45 minutes after a game when I'm already down to $1.37 an hour and I got a family and a wife, and a job, like I got to get going. So as parents, we have to be cognizant that maybe right after the game, that's probably the most emotional portion of it. We're right in the thick of it. Don't start trying to make permanent decisions in an emotional form. And that's important for us coaches too. Like that's preaching to the choir.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've talked about that on the show, for sure. That ride home and how make or break that ride home can be, as parents, not even as coaches. Yeah, I mean, we instituted, the 24-hour rule for parents. If you have a problem with us as coaches, call me tomorrow. If you're still
I
upset,
like
no
that.
problem.
Yeah,
Call
that's
me.
awesome.
Don't come to me after the game. Call me tomorrow, no problem. But I think as coaches, and Chad was much better at this than me, we have to have the same attitude like you're talking about with our players. We just lost. I hate losing. I mean, I tried to, sugarcoat it for these 10-year-olds, but the truth was you just ruined my week. I hate losing. I wasn't going to tell them that because there was something
I would
bigger.
get
There's
way
something
too
bigger here, right?
emotional.
But I can't take those emotions that I feel as a competitor that hates losing and take it out on those boys. We'll talk about it. We'll talk about it Tuesday at practice. So I just think that's good advice that you have, Andy. And
And those
coaches need to
losing
listen to it.
streaks, those are even harder. They're playing really, really well. Why are we not getting this over the finish line? And on occasion, I don't know if y'all know Alan Chasick at all. Do y'all know that name? He had a son on the team, but he's a brilliant baseball mind as well. And I respected him. And he was kind of the bad guy. I was the good guy. And eventually it had to switch. I had to be the bad guy. He kind of had to be the good guy just to get the boys to get to that next step, that next level. And when I was the good guy, I'd be like, this was 11U, maybe max of 20U. We'd have to have the fun practice. Like go and do double play, trick plays, the coolest thing you got, behind the back, through the legs, go make a diving stop, like do something different, and
Yeah.
then get back into focusing on the whatever it might be. Are we not throwing strikes? Are we not hitting? Are we not, whatever the case may be?
You know, it's funny you say that. One of the in 6 years, the best team event exercise that we ever had was we went as a team to watch the Savannah Bananas play. No, I think we were 10, maybe 11, but those kids loved it. They tried those things at practice. I don't want them doing that in the game,
Right,
but
right.
absolutely do it in practice. Let's have some fun, you know,
Yeah.
because part of this growth
Go hawk
again of
some
what we're
home runs. Do something different.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you know, at the core of what we're trying to do as a youth coach is create a passion for this game. It's that passion that's going to propel them to work themselves and get better and go do something beyond what I'm going to teach them how to do.
It
So
is. It is. Chris, that's one of the things I study, or I'm studying in adolescence, is something called grit. And I think we've talked about it a little bit, but grit is passion and perseverance for long-term goals. And something is difficult to baseball. The only way you can become really good at it is to stick with it. And that's, like that passion part of it, of make it fun enough to where they want to do it. And eventually, those skills develop over time. And I don't think I think it's hard to get people to understand that. It's hard to get a lot of coaches to really understand what that looks like. Especially the younger the players. The younger the less instruction we should be giving them. It should be just teaching them to love the game. And so that way they
absolutely.
mature enough to where coaches can then start to teach more specific skills and give more verbal instruction. But it's tough in the beginning.
It's a healthy medium. The like success is also very fun. I just got through finish coaching 33 and 4-year olds. I did a spring and a fall and had about 5 dads helping us out. We stationed them, sent them around the horn, and then we would have 2 games going on game day, 2 teams playing each other, 7 players on each team, and round robin it. But you could tell the kids that were bashful, like it's because they had no idea what to do. Like, and if you're like, hey, have your hands tell your ear a secret, or something fun like that for them. They're like, and now swing it as hard as you can. Ready, go. And they're like, boom. And the ball goes and everyone cheers. And they're like, it totally changes their mindset of
Yeah.
making it
Yeah.
easy for them.
That's one thing I read long ago with at that age especially is to tell these kids as hard as you can, as fast as you can. You know, that's a good
Playing tag.
communicator
I'm
that they understand. You know,
Yeah. You want to play
don't
tag?
don't
All right, you're
don't
in.
try to teach this 6-year-old how to hit a ball square and hit it hard. Just tell him to swing as hard as he
Yeah.
can. He
Force on
understands
the
that.
trees.
Hey, what do you think about? And sorry if I'm interrupting, Andy.
No,
Like I
No,
you're
you're
said,
good.
good.
that's what I do best. So whenever we look at the learning process, it's broken down into 3 phases. We have the cognitive, associative, and the autonomous or the automatic. The whole idea of the cognitive phase, which is it comes first for a reason, is that it's very mental, right? It's a lot of thinking about it. It's a lot of slowing it down, and that's really the point. Is you slow things down to a level to where you have to think about it. But then does that work the same way in a 6-year-old? Well, in theory, yes. But I was thinking about this, like if you put, 4, 5, and 6-year-olds on a tee, or maybe there's different stations, and the first tee is very, very slow, right? They have the stance, however you teach it, I don't know. They're working on hitting it square, right? Very, very slow, very mindful repetition just to get the thing. Maybe they do that a dozen times, and then they go to the next station and they try to knock the hell out of it. Do you think something like that would work with kids? Y'all have coached a whole lot more kids than I have. Or is that whole slowing it down at that age maybe takes some of the fun out of it, and it'd be more of just hit it as hard as you can, and we'll work on hitting it square whenever you turn 8 or something?
I did that.
If you're asking me, you have to know your audience. Like, you have to know your audience. Like these 4 and 5-year-old boys now, you may have their attention right now, but 3 seconds later, they're having a WWF SmackDown to like right behind you. And we're like, what just happened? So slowing it down for the high energy kids isn't going to work quite yet. Like, they're not quite there. So feeding the kid with that, like, all right, we're going to stop thinking about it. Let's just get out here. Let's have a race and let's see how many balls we can pick up. All right, now that they're picked up, let's start talking about how to hit this ball as far as you can hit it, and kind of switch the mindset off of wrestling to, or you have to improvise in some circumstances.
Well, yeah, and I also think, Kyle, to your question, the answer it depends on the age. It's going to change year to year. You know what I tell a 6-year-old about his hitting is different than I'm going to tell this 12 or 13-year-old. You know, we had a kid who, and if his dad was sitting right here, I'd say the same thing. His dad was one of the coaches. He knows it. Horrible mechanics, right? I mean, if you look up what hitting mechanics are, he didn't have them, but we didn't care. And I kind of early on, 6, 7 years old, I'm talking to Chad about, oh my gosh, we need to fix this. And he said, don't worry about it. He's 7. As he grows, his muscles are going to change. His movement patterns are going to change anyway. I'm not tinkering with a 7-year-old swing. Yeah, it's terrible. Who cares? He's hitting the crap out of the ball. What difference does it make? I mean, that was the thing the kid had, is he would just mash the ball. He didn't care if it was ugly. It didn't matter. Just keep doing that. So it changes, Kyle. I mean, like I said, you're going to tell a 6-year-old nothing, hopefully, except hit it as hard as you can. But as they get older, you can start to sprinkle in more of the instruction.
And how they're doing as players, their production can kind of dictate how you approach that. Like, hey, do you want to hit a baseball in a game, or do you just want to be a guy that hits well in practice? Like, okay, then let's slow this down is a way to share that with them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Totally agree with that.
I wanted to add one thing too, and really to get opinions on the winning and losing. And a few minutes ago, Chris, you were talking about it, right? Like everybody hates losing, but one of the things that we try to do is, well, I mean, if you're looking at boosting confidence and perseverance, you want kids to stay engaged and not be afraid to fail, then we can't attach too much emotional outcomes to winning or losing. It's hard to do, right? And really just not even focus on it at all. And I know kind of like that so what mindset and that type of stuff. And I've thought about this for a while, and I wrote an article on it the other day. And I don't necessarily have to get into any kind of religion here, but 80% of high level performers believe in something, right? You can hear it in all the interviews. I give glory to God. I do this. Maybe it's Buddha. I don't know. And if you look at the cycle of what happens, and this is some stuff I wrote in my article, there comes a time to where many high level performers, not just athletes, but athletes do it a lot, to where they realize they can't do it alone. They're not doing it alone. They can't really handle, a lot of times it's hard to handle that repetitive failure. And so, well, how do they keep going? Well, a lot of them keep going because they feel like they're doing it for something else. It's a branch of, it's existential psychology, something outside of it. And I try to wonder, you get a group, I'm a Christian, my wife's a Christian, but, you get it with a group of kids. I don't want to go in there and really like throw all of my beliefs on them. What do you, I guess what I'm trying to say is, at those younger ages, 6 to 12, is there any way to approach the group to where you try to talk about baseball as being a vessel for something that's greater than yourself? Right. So maybe you say, right, we're given this opportunity by the Lord or whoever to go out here and play a great game. So let's have fun and let's use this as an opportunity to grow. And then not, what, if we win, thank you, Lord. If we lose, thank you, Lord, for the opportunity to show that I can be a good sportsman, even if I don't play very well.
Yeah. So look, let me jump in real quick. I mean, 2 answers to that. The first problem with what you were saying, but with this wins and losses, is it's inherent that it's going to be a problem, because we have defined wins and losses by what the score was. You won, you lost. But the reality is there's victories in those losses, right? And that's what a coach's job is to the victories and the failures after the game, irregardless of what that score was. We had so many games that were wins for us that, we lost on the scoreboard, but hey, this was a great game. I mean, there's so much growth here. So that's the first thing with this wins and losses, and there's no way around it. I mean, the world defines wins and losses by what the score was, but coaches need to dive deeper than that. The other thing, more important, I'll say to your point about, this higher thing or greater good or whatever. Yes. Now, I didn't really, certainly didn't bring religion into it. I don't know that as a baseball coach, I think we should leave that at home, or to the church to teach them that. I don't know that's my job as a baseball coach. But what I did do was absolutely, and I've said this, baseball is the greatest analogy for life that I know of. And we constantly tried to point that out to these boys it's real. This is really just a medium. We are using this to teach you about life and about failures and about persevering, all these things. We've talked about this so much, and so I definitely think, we're teaching them baseball, but we're really not. We're teaching them, certainly not on the youth level,
And
because all the things that they're going to need to be successful on a higher level of baseball are not the things we're teaching them. So we're teaching them about life. We're teaching them how to work as a team, and all these things. We could do a whole show on that. So yeah, I mean, I think that's big, Kyle. Not so much religion for me, but just the game of life, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, I could definitely speak on it for, from my standpoint and my teams. When I was coaching Brock's team and now just coaching Max's team, I bring my belief into it, but the parents know ahead of time. So they know that I'm a Christian. They know that I'm going to pray before games. They know that I'm going to talk about it. I consider myself a vessel to teach these kids how to become godly young men, right? So for me personally, I talk about it. I don't quote scriptures or anything like that, but I do pray a lot. I do tell them how blessed they are by God to be able to play this game and to thank their parents that they're able to play this game, because there's a lot of kids out there that are really good that can't play this game, right? So I do bring it into my coaching. I don't, like I said, I don't shove anything down their throats to go overboard with it, but I do get into, why we're here. I do use a lot of the life lesson talks too, just like Chris did. How baseball correlates to life so well, because we fail so much in life and we have to get back up. There's no other choice. At some point in your life, there's no other choice to get back up than to get back up, right? But yeah, I do bring God into the equation often, and I sprinkle it in, and I talk to the parents about it too, It always
Look, I
comes
don't
up.
think there's. Let me just clarify a little bit, so y'all don't think I'm against any of that stuff. But I do. I just on a personal level, I've never, just be aware. I guess. I mean, I don't disagree with any of that at all. We prayed before every game. We prayed before every practice at the end of it. But we don't need to go down this rabbit hole. In my case, here's my religious. So I was raised Catholic, went to an Episcopal high school, Presbyterian college, and I married a Jew. And so, and my
yeah,
kids, I guess, are being
you're
raised
very,
Jewish.
you're the,
So, I am, or confused, whatever
absolutely.
you want to call it. I have a lot of opinions that don't lead to any answers, but that's okay.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying that just to coaches, we were, we'd have a prayer. We always let the boys say the prayer. Actually, we would rotate that. And I always laughed a little bit inside because, they would, in Jesus' name, which is fine. I'm Christian. It's fine. But I'm looking at my son who is Jewish and I'm like, and I don't care. I don't have a problem
Well,
with
so
it,
is
but
Jesus, is my argument to
oh,
that.
absolutely.
So is
100%,
Jesus. So
again, it's
that's
not a
the most
problem. I'm
perfect
just
human
saying,
that there
just
is
be
that.
aware to the coaches out there that, there are different religions out there, so
Yeah,
don't
absolutely.
make it
And
too targeted, I
the
guess.
one thing consistent throughout is love others. And if we can love first, then they will love us back. That I can remember at 10U, I finally got it to stop, but I let it slide a little bit with the crying after a strikeout or a failure that is emotional, but once you start crying here, you're going to take it out on the field and you're going to have an error. But they had to learn that. And I finally had to have a post game talk with these boys about, like, hey, you're crying about a baseball game. Like, there are kids that know what bed they're going to be
Absolutely.
sleeping in tonight. They don't know where their next meal is coming from. No matter the results, the end of the day, you can look in the mirror tomorrow and say, I got a family that loves you. And also being cognizant of the family situation. But you have a coach that loves you if you have to go that route. You have a group of players that are here to support you no matter what. So who cares if you fail?
Yeah,
Go
absolutely.
fast.
We talked about this before too, is at least, I know me, Kyle, Dylan, maybe you too, Andy, our kids are definitely blessed, right? My kid, they go to private schools. Every kid I coached went to a private school.
We woke up
And
today. We woke up
we
today. Like, we
absolutely,
can lower that
hey, look,
standard as low as we want.
I say every 7 days a week, the first person that asks me, how you doing today? I said, I'm doing great. I woke up. That is my standard answer every single day
About
of the
2
week.
feet on the ground after that.
But
Like,
yeah,
let's
but
start
I don't know
compounding
what's
those.
going to happen from here, but I woke up and it's a great day. But we would tell our kids and to parents and coaches too, like you're talking about crying after a strikeout, embrace the struggle. We're good parents, we're good coaches. We've done so much to bless our kids, right? And other powers have also done those things too. But if I've said this on the show, but you maybe didn't hear it, Andy. I had a parent tell me, if the only place my kid struggles is on that baseball field, well, that's a good thing.
Hell yeah.
I'm not going to apologize for it, but
That's
I'm
great.
embrace the struggle and get those kids to embrace it as well. It's a building block to who you're going to be as a person. Is that strikeout? To learn how to, I agree, like crying's not the way to deal with it, but I understand the emotion when they're young, especially. But I think if we can transform those kids' mindset into the struggle is part of the process and you need to go through it, then I think they all come out on the other side better.
One of the things, and I don't want to like ever try to act like my son is the perfect athlete, but I think he's a pretty good one for a variety of reasons. But from a very young age, I would always tell him that we like to do hard things. And of course, whenever now that he's heard it so much, I will hear him say it. I will hear him tell his friends that we like to do hard things. And I think that's, part of that struggle too is thank goodness we have an opportunity to do something hard. How boring would life be if everything was so easy? And, I think again, you repeat that to kids enough, who they internalize it different ways, but it does kind of like become a part of them to where I told this kid in practice last night, he went down to get a ground ball and it popped up and hit him in the chest and it hurt pretty bad. And I said, well, the chests are made for stopping things. And then I heard him over.
You know what I do?
I heard him over talking
Quick
to me.
sidetrack. You know what I do to my kids? Like, my finger hurts. Dude, go get the scissors. We're going to have to cut that finger off.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And they're like, no. I was like, if it's not there anymore, it's not going to hurt. So they're
That's right.
point to where it hurts. Let's cut it off.
That's why God gave you 10 of them. You can lose one. You still have 9 other ones.
Well, I heard this kid over, another kid asked him if it hurt. And he said, well, yeah, it hurt, but chests are made for stopping things.
That's
Oh.
awesome. Hey, can we get Caden on the podcast? Would he do it? Come
No, I
on,
think
man.
I think he's too shy.
Hey, you
He's
know
such
what?
a-
I threatened to make my kids, my team, but especially my son, go watch his sister play softball because
Oh,
you haven't seen tough until you watch these girls
And
get
their
hit by it.
energy
Look,
is
I
so
get that. I
awesome.
know it's a softball. It's not that soft, and I get that it's
Hell
not
no, it's not.
coming in at 90 miles an hour either. But when I tell you these girls don't even blink an eye when they get hit by a pitch, it's
No.
insane. Not just
No.
one of them, every single one of them.
Dude,
My daughter has
softball,
bruises.
an elite softball player is one of the most, it's just a different animal, bro. We talk about that. I'm so
It
happy you
is.
brought that up. We talk about it at baseball practice all the time because several of our boys have sisters that play softball. And we talk about it all the time. It's like, you see those games, you go to those games. Those girls are something different, bro. You just watch them in the batting cages. They are insanely
even
tough.
how engaged into the game they are. Like,
Exactly.
yes.
somebody
Exactly.
strikes out, they don't put their head down. Everyone's high fiving them. You got
Yep.
this, girl. Go
Yep.
get it.
Yeah,
It's
they do.
so
Look, and I'm
awesome.
gonna tell you the point I guess I want to make on that is it's all here. It's in your head. I mean, I don't want to open this can of worms, but let's just say on the surface that it's girls, right? I shouldn't even say all this. We can, if we need to get rid of it, we can. But I look at my son as he should be tougher, just tougher than He should be able to take a punch better than my daughter can, but he can't. My
Yeah.
daughter's she's so freaking tough, it's ridiculous, and it's because it's not because it doesn't hurt her. It absolutely hurts. I see the scars on her body. It hurts, but she doesn't allow it to hurt her.
Kyle, that's a
she's
good
just
question for you. Is it?
I'm not a girl.
Yeah, you are. So listen, you ever got you got a lot of female tendencies, Kyle. So listen, let me ask you. So we're trying to teach these boys to be tough, right? And mentally, especially tough, and physically too, a lot of times, right? Why is it that girls are able to get that? I mean, we know that they do develop, I guess you would say, mentally at an earlier age, but why is it that if you take, let's say you take 1,000 9U baseball players and 1,000 9U softball players, girls versus boys, these girls are so much tougher, so much more resilient. The kids on the bench are always paying attention. They're cheering just as loud as anybody else. Is it because of that's the way softball is thing? Is it the mentality of the stands and because I can tell you, I've watched a lot of female softball games, a lot. I've gone to a lot of the sisters games and things like that. And man, it's just a different breed. Like it's a completely different breed.
So I of course don't know the answer, but the first thing two things come to mind. The first one is that I do think women inherently have a higher pain tolerance than we do, and of course it develops differently, depending on what they do. But I think that is it's a pretty natural thing. Thinking of a childbirth and stuff like that.
Right.
So I think that's a real thing. The other thing I think is only a select type of girl gets into softball. It sticks with it over a period of time. Most often girls are going to go into other sort of non-competitive sports. And so you end up with a collection of girls that just happen to be a little bit tougher, a little bit more resilient. And
that makes sense.
Again, because of that, they probably like the game of softball more, and they pay more attention to it. So that would kind of be.
So you think there's on that point,
too.
on that last point, do you think it's different in baseball in that more boys are playing baseball just because?
I do think it is. I do think it's different, right? Because you're going to have more boys play the more aggressive sports. And not that baseball is really aggressive per se, but it's tough. It's not an easy game, right? But you're going to have more boys that enter that sport than girls. And so you're going to end up with a wider variety in that group than you do in the girls playing softball group. Again, it's just a theory.
You know what?
I don't know, but
yeah, maybe the better comparison is softball players to football players. Honestly,
it could be. Yeah.
I mean, really.
Yeah.
Girls mature so much earlier than boys. Like, you can tell a girl to ask her if she wants to sit down and color, and she'll do that for 30 minutes. You tell a boy the same age to do that, you're going to find yourself in a rough situation.
You may get 3
At
minutes
least my
out of
boys versus girl. Like,
and it could be that. I think, Andy, you mentioned something about WWE SmackDown. The boys in the back doing that. Yeah. So if you go to a practice, right, and watch the boys doing, they're roughhousing and they're doing all this crazy stuff. 8 times out of 10, the girls aren't going to be doing that. They're going to be kind of just engaged differently. So I think that is part of it too.
What does that have to do with WWE SmackDown?
Well, what I heard is like you're out here trying to do something, and then boys are like back there roughhousing, doing like a WWE.
Yeah, when you need to know your audience and all of that.
Hey, you know what, guys? Not to shift gears here, although I got about 10 minutes. Y'all keep going, but I'm gonna have to bounce in about 10 minutes.
I'm not far behind you.
But I want to say one thing that Andy also mentioned in his intro, which I love because it was so different than my background. He and I came to different conclusions in college. He made the correct choice. I didn't. And I've talked about me, but he mentioned himself. So I think, Andy, you said, if I'm remembering right, during college, you maybe came to the realization, and if I get this wrong, I apologize, that you weren't going to, professional baseball maybe wasn't in the cards, right? Did I remember that right?
Yeah. I mean,
right.
I had hope in high school, but
absolutely.
Very clear. My friends are playing at Arkansas and my friends are playing Here,
Yeah. So look, I just, just to kind of get you up on, and again, I've talked about me. I'll be quick. The same thing, right? In high school, yeah, that's what I want to do. I went NAIA, play baseball, and I have friends, Chad Durbin, who's already drafted at this point. Plenty of other guys play in LSU. Dylan, D1, these guys that were doing bigger things than me, and I came to the realization you're not going to. There's no future here for you in baseball. And so what did I do? I quit because it had to, at the time, it had to lead to something else for me. And when I realized that it was not going to, there was no point in doing it. At 48, I realized that's the dumbest mistake I ever made. Like Chad and I have talked about this privately, and you are a better example, I guess, is what I'm getting at of what I want these kids to come to understand is that why did it need to be more than that? If you play any college baseball for 1 year or 4 years, that is just phenomenal. And it doesn't need to lead to professional baseball. It's probably not going to. So be proud, I guess. I don't want these kids falling into a trap where there is no tomorrow, therefore I'm going to quit today. It's just a bad attitude.
I mean, my parents worked really, really hard for everything that we had. Like we lived in a good area and we budgeted very well. They taught me a lot in that regard. And I was very grateful for that, but I also did not want to. College was never really, there was no other option but college in my mind. Like that's how from the 60s to early 2000s, like now kids are getting out of high school or making millions in high school and that's a whole other direction. But if college was the goal and this is how I could help take that off of my parents' plates, it was important to me. Then I got in trouble in college and I'm like, all right, now you're not covering my rent or anything like that. Like, they taught me to do a lot of stuff on my own. And the podcast that I had done with my buddy Tyler Gillum, who coaches the Bananas, he had a great quote in it. And it's, are we preparing our kids for the path or are we preparing the path for our kids? And uh, stuff gets hard. Stuff gets
Yeah,
really, really hard. Like, and a lot of competition is learned. Like now in my business life, somebody's trying to replace me in some form or fashion.
absolutely.
If you think about that from a baseball standpoint, if I would have had that same mindset my sophomore year of college going in, like somebody's here to replace me, I would have had a lot better sophomore year. If I would have had that belief as a freshman in high school, I may have found a way to get drafted. Like, who knows? Who knows? Been talking to different people and growing at a different pace and learning about nutrition in a different manner, not playing as many video games. There's a lot of things. One of my favorite quotes from a book I read in 2025, kind of a cheesy book, but it's called The Ultimate Gift. One of my favorite quotes from that was, we learn from our own mistakes, we get better at life. When we learn from others' mistakes, we begin to master life. And so going in eyes wide open and even going back to I'm taking the forest and getting into the trees now, but like learning from, was it my footwork or was it a huge rock in the middle of the baseball field that ball took a bad hop and I missed it? Like I started delving deeper into each of those intricacies, but ultimately the goal has to be known very, very early on for what does the kid want. Too many parents are wanting this for their kid. And I, tongue in cheek with my kids, I'm like, yeah, we're going to play all the sports, but it's gonna lead back to baseball at some point. Like my best friend's the head coach of the Bananas. Like we're gonna be around baseball. It'll be passive
Yeah,
aggressive as
right.
ever, but I don't care if you don't love it at 5 years old, 6 years old, 10 years old. But it did a lot of good for me, and my best advice would be it can do a lot of good for you too.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, absolutely. And that's kind of what I was getting at was, I love, if the goal want is professional baseball, that's wonderful. But at some point, and maybe it's not until college, realize there's all these other benefits to this game of baseball that even if you don't reach the professional level, there's still a reason to pursue this for all these other benefits. Not I saw myself. This took me years to get over where I was a failure because did not reach professional baseball. And when I think back on that, I missed continued lessons through baseball because I quit after 1 year of college.
We all get imposter syndrome. That's all it is. Like, I feel I get imposter syndrome daily. But at the end of the day, every day can be a weekend or every day can be a weekday. It just depends on how you wake up feeling. You can trick your brain to make it a lot happier than it is a lot of times too.
I do that every day by necessity.
Yeah.
All right. That seems like a good place to stop. That sound okay with everybody?
Yeah,
Love it.
yeah, kind
All
of
right.
run.
Excellent. Andy,
Thank you, Andy, very much. That was great.
Oh, I enjoyed being here. A lot of great baseball talk. And